I knew something insane was about to happen the moment I heard that unmistakable voice screech across the pool deck. You know the type, sharp, entitled, echoing with the confidence of someone who believes the world runs on her personal schedule. Hey! You! Get away from my pool! That was the first thing Karen yelled before she even saw who she was talking to. And that's the moment I realized, today was going to be a disaster, but also the kind of disaster that makes for an unbelievable story. The morning had been peaceful. Resort Valley stretched beneath me like a painting, lush villas, shimmering pools, quiet pathways, and rolling mountains at the far edge. I was doing my usual rounds when I heard the metal clanking of the pool gate being yanked. Hard. Repeatedly. The kind of yanking you'd expect from someone trying to break out of jail, not someone trying to get into a pool. I walked over and found her Karen standing there with sunglasses larger than her face, clutching a fancy HOA badge like it was a royal seal. Finally, she snapped, pointing at me. Open this gate. I've been waiting. This pool is for homeowners, and I'm not wasting another second. I kept my tone calm. Ma'am, this pool is part of the resort. It's not an HOA facility. She laughed. Actually laughed. Honey, I've lived here for years. I know every rule in this community. Don't try to fool me. I pay dues. I get access. Now unlock the gate. Behind her, a few guests watched, unsure whether to laugh or run. I stepped forward. This area is private property. You're not allowed inside. Her expression snapped from smug to furious. Private? Excuse me? This entire valley belongs to the HOA. And I am practically the president of keeping things in order. I shook my head. No. It belongs to the resort. And you are trespassing. That's when she did it. The dramatic gasp, the hand to her chest, the wild-eyed disbelief like a villain discovering the hero is still alive. You know what? I'm done. I'm calling 911. Let them deal with you. She pulled out her phone with a victorious smirk, already rehearsing whatever fantasy version of the story she planned to tell them. Guests whispered. My staff exchanged exhausted looks. And I simply stood there, knowing something she didn't. In a few minutes, the police would arrive. And she would learn the truth about who actually owns this entire resort valley. Karen paced in front of the pool gate like an angry rooster guarding territory that wasn't even hers. The phone pressed to her ear, she spoke loud enough for the entire valley to hear. Hello, 911? Yes, I'm being harassed. This man is blocking homeowners from entering our community pool. She stressed every word as if she were delivering an Oscar-winning performance. I stood a few feet away, arms crossed, watching calmly. I knew exactly how this was going to end. My staff, however, struggled to keep straight faces. One whispered, "Should we grab popcorn?" Another murmured, "This is better than TV." I subtly motioned them to stay composed, though I couldn't deny the entertainment value. Karen continued ranting dramatically. Yes, send officers immediately. This is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. Then she hung up with a flourish and spun toward me. There. Now we'll see who's really in charge around here. A couple of resort guests edged closer to me and quietly asked, should we leave? We don't want to get involved. I assured them, you're perfectly fine. She's mistaken, and the officers know this property well. 20 minutes passed, 20 minutes of Karen complaining loudly about everything from unprofessional staff to illegal gate installations to suspicious resort people lowering property values. It was chaos wrapped in entitlement. Finally, the police SUV rolled into the lot. Karen practically skipped toward it. Officers. Over here. Thank goodness you're here. She waved like she was greeting old friends, ignoring the fact that her friends looked extremely tired the moment they recognized her. The shorter officer stepped out first. Karen, we got your call. She nodded rapidly. Yes. Arrest him. He's locking community members out of our pool. The taller officer gave me a nod of acknowledgement. Morning. Rough start today. I smiled lightly. Just a little misunderstanding. Karen inserted herself between us like a referee. No. There is no misunderstanding. This man is abusing authority. I want charges pressed. The officers requested she step aside, but she kept jumping back into the conversation, desperate to stay center stage. Finally, the taller officer said firmly, Karen. Stop talking. Let us assess. That stunned her into silence for 3 seconds. Fine, she huffed. But when you find out I'm right, I expect apologies. The officers turned to me. Can you explain what happened? I gave a simple, precise rundown. They nodded, they already knew the truth. And Karen, unaware she was moments away from complete embarrassment, waited smugly for her imagined victory. The taller officer turned toward Karen with a calm but unmistakably tired expression. Karen, we're going to need you to take a step back while we confirm the details. But Karen didn't step back. She stepped forward, hands on hips, chin tilted up like she expected a medal. Confirm what? It's simple. He won't let me into the HOA pool that I pay for. The shorter officer rubbed his forehead. Karen, we've explained this before. This pool is not an HOA facility. She blinked rapidly. What? Yes, it is. I've lived here for years. I know the rules better than anyone. I waited, letting the officers handle it. They were used to her. This wasn't their first Karen emergency. The taller officer pulled out a small tablet and tapped through property maps. This section pool complex B, the villas, the spa, the West Valley trails, they all fall under Resort Valley's private ownership. Karen stared hard. No. That can't be right. Who would buy an entire valley? That's ridiculous. The shorter officer gestured toward me. He did. Karen whipped around so fast her sunglasses nearly flew off. Him. She jabbed her finger in my direction like she was accusing me of tax fraud, murder, and stealing her mail all at once. I gave a polite nod. Yes. I'm the owner. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. The gears in her head were clearly grinding but failing to catch. You own everything? This whole place. Every building. Every path. Every pool. Including this one. Her jaw tightened. Well, that's impossible. If you owned all this, why would you be walking around like some staff member? I shrugged. Because I like to check on things myself. The taller officer stepped in. Karen, you do not have the authority to enter any restricted resort property. You don't have guest access. You don't have a reservation. And you definitely can't demand entry. Karen looked like she had swallowed a lemon whole. This is discrimination. No, it's private property, the officer corrected. But I'm a homeowner, she insisted. And this isn't your home's pool, the officer replied flatly. It never was. Her eyes darted back and forth between us, searching for some kind of loophole or technicality she could weaponize. When she couldn't find one, she crossed her arms like a child denied candy. Fine. But this place is confusing. How was I supposed to know? The taller officer raised an eyebrow. Because we told you. Multiple times. A few guests chuckled quietly. Karen glared at all of them, then at me, then at the officers, her fantasy victory dissolving into thin air. And she had no idea the situation was about to get even more chaotic. For a moment, Karen stood frozen, as if her brain couldn't accept the information being fed to it. Then, like a volcano waking up after centuries, she erupted. This is unacceptable. I don't care what maps you have or what fancy title he claims to hold. I deserve access. She tapped her HOA badge aggressively, like it was a magical key that unlocked the universe. This means something. The shorter officer sighed. Karen, that badge has nothing to do with this property. She gasped dramatically. Excuse me? This badge represents order, community, responsibility. It represents nothing here, he cut in gently but firmly. Karen stomped her foot like a character in a cartoon. You're all confused. This valley was supposed to be HOA property. I know it. I saw the brochures. I calmly replied, you saw the brochures for the community down the road. Not this resort. That HOA doesn't extend here. Karen looked at me as if I had just personally rewritten the laws of physics. Well, if that's true, then why do I see people using this pool every day? Because they're resort guests, I answered. Who pay for that privilege? She scoffed. And what, you expect me to just what? Buy a room to swim? I live 3 minutes away. That makes no sense. That's how private resorts work, I said with a small smile. Karen wasn't having it. No. 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 You can't just deny access because you feel like it. There must be some law, some rule, some loophole. There isn't, the taller officer interrupted. Karen pointed at him ferociously. Oh, you think you know everything, don't you? He blinked slowly. I know the property lines. And I know you're trespassing. That hit her hard. She recoiled. Trespassing? Me? A homeowner? A taxpayer? Taxpayer or not, he said, you cannot enter secured private property. Karen clenched her fists. Fine. Then I want to file a formal complaint. Against him. She pointed at me like she was selecting an enemy in a video game. He spoke to me rudely. The shorter officer glanced at me. Did he? I shook my head. All I did was say she couldn't enter. Karen threw her hands up. That's rude. The officers did their best to remain stone-faced, but their patience was cracking. The taller one cleared his throat. Karen, you called 911 over a pool gate. This isn't an emergency. This could get you fined. She froze again. Fined? For trying to get into what I thought was my pool. For misusing emergency services, he clarified. Her face went pale. But instead of backing down, she escalated. Karen's eyes darted wildly as if she were searching for an escape route, a backup plan, or maybe just someone new to blame. Instead, she jabbed her finger at the officers again. You know what? This entire situation is suspicious. I think there's corruption here. The taller officer blinked slowly, exhausted beyond measure. Corruption? Over a swimming pool. Karen huffed. Yes. Why else would you all take his side so quickly? Something is going on, and I won't let it slide. I stayed silent, mostly because watching the officers struggle to remain professional was bordering on comedic. The shorter officer cleared his throat. Karen, no one is taking sides. We're explaining the law. She waved her hand dramatically. Oh please. Laws can be misinterpreted. And I believe that's exactly what's happening. I demand a supervisor. The officers exchanged a look. The taller one pulled out his radio. Dispatch, requesting a supervising unit for a property dispute. Karen stood proudly as if she had won a small victory. Good. Finally, someone who knows what they're doing. Moments later, a second police vehicle pulled up. The supervisor stepped out, a calm, steady woman who clearly had dealt with chaos before. What's the issue? She asked. Karen rushed forward. Finally. Someone reasonable. These officers don't understand the HOA rules. This man is blocking me from entering my pool. The supervisor raised an eyebrow. Your pool? Yes, Karen declared. I live here. This whole valley is HOA territory. The supervisor turned to the officers. They gestured toward me. I explained briefly. She nodded. Ma'am, this is resort property. You have no legal right to enter. Karen's jaw dropped. Not you too. The property ownership records are clear, the supervisor said. You are trespassing. And calling 911 for this was inappropriate. But he insulted me. Karen protested. I didn't, I replied calmly. I just told her she couldn't enter. The supervisor sighed. Ma'am, you will leave the property immediately or face a citation. Karen's face twisted with disbelief, fury, and humiliation all at once. A citation? For trying to swim. For ignoring boundaries and misusing emergency services, the supervisor corrected. Karen looked ready to explode. Instead, she pointed at me one last time. This isn't over. I will take this to the HOA board. The supervisor calmly replied, they have no jurisdiction here. Karen froze. Then, realizing she had no remaining weapons in her arsenal, she spun around and stormed off in a dramatic huff. Little did any of us know that Karen's retreat wasn't surrender, it was preparation. Because by the next morning, she would return with a strategy far more chaotic, unreasonable, and disruptive than anything we had witnessed so far. By the next morning, I assumed the chaos had ended. The valley was peaceful again, birds chirping, water shimmering across the pool surface, guests enjoying breakfast on their villa patios. Everything felt normal. Calm. Quiet. Too quiet. Because exactly at 9:12 a.m., the quiet was shattered by a sound no one ever wants to hear near a peaceful resort, a bullhorn. Attention residents. Your rights are being violated. I nearly dropped my coffee. There she was, Karen, standing at the edge of the public road just outside the resort property line, holding a bullhorn in one hand and a stack of flyers in the other. She had transformed herself into some kind of self-declared freedom fighter. A bright neon vest completed the look, as if she were leading a rescue mission instead of protesting a pool she wasn't allowed to enter. Guests stared in confusion. Staff stared in horror. I stared in disbelief. Karen lifted the bullhorn again. This resort is illegally blocking homeowners from community resources. Spread the word. A couple walking by whispered, is she serious? Another guest muttered, is this some kind of performance art? I walked over to the security gate. Good morning, Karen. She spun toward me like a dramatic stage actress. Ah! The tyrant has arrived. I blinked. Tyrant? Yes, she said confidently. I know exactly what you're doing. You're trying to privatize community property so you can make more money. This is private property, I reminded her. She completely ignored that. And so, I'm spreading awareness. She held up a flyer proudly. It showed a poorly photoshopped image of me sitting on a throne wearing a crown. The title read, Stop the Resort King. I couldn't help it. I laughed. You made a poster. Several hundred, she corrected. And I'll be handing them out all day. The HOA will not be silenced. Karen, the HOA has nothing to do with this valley. That's what you want people to believe, she snapped. Security gently approached. Ma'am, you can't use amplification devices this close to the resort. You're disturbing guests. She gasped. Wow. Silencing tactics. Is this a dictatorship now? I kept calm. Karen, you can stand on the public road. But if you block traffic, disturb guests, or trespass again, the police will be called. Her eyes narrowed with dramatic intensity. Oh, I hope they come. I have more to say. It was clear now, she wasn't stopping. In her mind, she was on a crusade. A mission. A battle of justice, however imaginary that justice might be. But things were about to escalate in a way none of us expected. By noon, the situation had graduated from mildly annoying to full-blown spectacle. Not only had Karen continued her Stop the Resort King protest, but she had succeeded in summoning the very people she believed would save her the HOA board. 3 of them arrived, stepping out of their car with clipboards, stern expressions, and matching polo shirts. Karen rushed toward them like a hero greeting reinforcements. Finally! Finally! The board is here. You're going to put an end to this madness. The board members looked around, confused. Karen, what exactly is going on? She pointed dramatically at me. Him. He's denying homeowners their legal right to use the HOA pool. The board members stared at me, then at the resort entrance, then at Karen. Karen, this isn't the HOA pool. Karen gasped. Oh my God, not you too. One of the board members adjusted his glasses. We've gone over this. The HOA property ends 3 streets north. This entire valley is privately owned. Karen threw her hands up. No. That's misinformation. He bought the land illegally. I stepped forward calmly. Feel free to review the ownership documents. The board members exchanged glances and asked, may we come inside the lobby and look at them? Of course, I said. Karen nearly choked. Why are you helping him? You're supposed to help me. One of the board members sighed deeply. Karen, the HOA has nothing to do with this resort. We've tried explaining this multiple times. Karen stomped her foot. Well, I don't accept that. Inside the lobby, the board reviewed the maps, deeds, and county filings. It took them less than 5 minutes to confirm everything. Yep, one said. Everything checks out. This is 100% private resort land. Karen stared at them as though they had committed treason. You're all in on it? All of you. Another board member rubbed his temples. Karen, please. We are not going to start a legal war over a pool that isn't ours. But I want to swim, she screamed suddenly, startling everyone. A hotel guest passing by muttered, this lady needs a hobby. Karen ignored him. She spun back to the board. Fine. If the HOA won't fight, then I'll file a lawsuit myself. One board member whispered, does she even know how lawsuits work? The chairperson shrugged. She once tried to sue a neighbor because his wind chimes annoyed her. Before Karen could continue her meltdown, the police arrived again, this time responding to noise complaints from guests who had enough of her bullhorn theatrics. Seeing the officers, Karen declared triumphantly, good. They'll help me. But the truth was, what happened next would finally end the saga once and for all. The officers approached with that same weary expression they wore the day before, except this time it was mixed with something new, finality. They were done playing referee in Karen's never-ending drama. The taller officer spoke first. Karen, we've received multiple noise complaints from resort guests and nearby residents. You need to turn off the bullhorn. Karen clutched it tighter. No. This is freedom of speech. They're trying to silence me because I'm exposing the truth. The shorter officer gestured to the bright neon flyers scattered all over the sidewalk. Ma'am, you're littering a public roadway. And this is disturbing the peace. You need to stop immediately. Karen held the bullhorn like it was a sacred artifact. I will not stop. Not until justice is served. The taller officer sighed deeply. Ma'am, you don't understand. There is no case here. This resort is private property. The HOA has no jurisdiction. You have no right to enter the pool. You called 911 unnecessarily. And today, you're disrupting a business and disturbing guests. Karen pointed at me furiously. He's behind this. Arrest him. The officer turned to me with a helpless half-smile. We're not arresting him. Then I demand the board arrest him. Karen cried, pointing at the HOA members. One of the board members raised his hands. Karen, we have literally zero authority to arrest anyone. Karen sputtered, out of arguments, out of logic, and quickly running out of patience. This is oppression. Harassment. Discrimination against homeowners. The supervisor, who had arrived moments earlier, stepped forward. Karen, this is your final warning. You must leave the area, stop the protest, and cease harassing resort staff and guests. If you refuse, we will issue a citation and possibly a restraining order. That stopped her cold. A restraining order, she whispered, stunned. Yes, the supervisor said firmly. You will not be allowed within 50 feet of any resort facility if you continue this behavior. Karen looked around, the guests staring, the HOA board embarrassed, the officers exasperated, me standing quietly. Her crusade, her posters, her bullhorn, all of it had led to a possible restraining order. Reality finally hit. Her shoulders sank. Fine, she muttered. I'll leave. But this isn't over. She gathered her ridiculous flyers, powered off the bullhorn, and marched away with a defeated wobble. The officers exhaled in relief. The board members apologized for the chaos. Guests laughed softly, shaking their heads. I thanked the officers and staff for handling everything professionally. And as I looked over the peaceful valley once more, I realized one thing. Some battles you choose. Others come screeching at you holding a bullhorn. But either way, the valley remained mine, peaceful, private, and finally, Karen free. For a brief, peaceful stretch of days, Resort Valley felt normal again. Guests lounged by the pool without fear of sudden bullhorn speeches. Staff walked freely without bracing for surprise confrontations. Even the birds seemed to sing louder, as if celebrating Karen's temporary absence. But peace never lasts long when a Karen is involved. On the fourth morning, as I walked through the valley doing routine checks, the front desk receptionist hurried toward me. Sir, she's back. I blinked. Who? She gave me a look that said I already knew. And I did. Karen. Except this time she wasn't yelling, protesting, or waving papers. She was standing calmly at the front desk, too calmly. Arms folded, lips pursed, eyes narrowed with a quiet kind of determination that made me more nervous than her bullhorn ever had. Good morning, I said cautiously. She turned toward me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Hello. I'd like to book a room. That caught everyone off guard. Even the receptionist froze. Karen continued, I was told this resort is for guests only. Fine. I'll become a guest. I inhaled slowly. You want to stay at the resort? She lifted her chin proudly. Yes. I booked 2 nights. I would like full access to all amenities, including the pool. The receptionist gave me a helpless look. Technically, Karen was within her rights. If she paid for a stay, she was now a legitimate guest, loud, dramatic, unpredictable, but still a paying customer. All right, I said. We'll treat you like any other guest. Oh, don't worry, she replied sweetly. I'll be taking advantage of everything included. She grabbed her keycard and strutted off toward her villa. The moment the door closed behind her, my head of security approached with concern. Should we? I don't know, prepare for something. I don't know, I admitted. But let's stay alert. The first hour was quiet. She unpacked, moved in, and didn't cause trouble. By the second hour, she was at the pool floating peacefully on a resort-provided inflatable swan, sunglasses on, lemonade in hand, acting like she had never caused a meltdown in her life. Guests whispered nervously. Staff tiptoed around her. By the third hour, she approached me with a clipboard. Since I'm now a guest, I'd like to make some suggestions. Oh no. She flipped through pages of handwritten complaints and improvement ideas, ranging from water temperature to towel thickness to the lack of HOA energy at the resort. I sighed. This wasn't an attack. It was round two. Karen's version of peace was simply preparation for the next storm.